Hey guys, Voymonk video voice vlog Friday. I don't know. For some reason, I guess I get a little more excited as far as for the Friday vlogs. Maybe it's because I get to kind of wrap up things, and doing the daily vlogs are great, and I don't want to change any formula to the way that I do them now. But Friday vlogs, I guess, I don't know. I mean, it's Friday. There's something a little bit special about a lot of things that have to do with Friday, unless you're in a Jason movie, right? But yeah, for the most part, just talking about certain tactics and things like that earlier this week, and pretty much doing that to kind of highlight why it isn't something that I'm generally a fan of. It's not something that overall attracts me to a community or any kind of content or any kind of engagement. But yesterday I also talked quite a bit about community, and I wanted to touch quite a bit on that because I think that's important. It's I've been on this here thing, this marble we call a planet Earth, and living in the society that we have with all of the social media and content that has ever been created, at least in my life. And for the most part, there have been, ebbs and flows in terms of my experiences from one kind of participation to another. And for the most part, I've seen what I think are a lot of flaws in some of the systems and stuff that I've been a part of. And like I said, it's not an attack or anything like that. But when I talk about building a community here, and the reason I wanted to kind of more or less do it in the arrangement that I had done this week, all of this is off the top of my head. And as I hit the red record button, kind of having a bit of a plan as to what it is that I'm doing, and not for some kind of generic effect, like, trying to gear things towards, manipulation or anything like that, which kind of can be true in a lot of instances. For this, I just wanted to basically have a direction, and hopefully that can be possible without it including something that, I'm going to say something a little bit here or say something a little bit there for an effect. I talked about my experience in radio in terms of image and what that can mean in terms of, overall, I guess, understanding your audience as opposed to just understanding and then using that for some kind of purpose of direction or, trying to create things that just aren't real. And I know I probably hit a whole lot about that the last couple of weeks, and, I try to be a little bit more lighthearted when I do these things, because I don't want these to become, super serious or, them to be, me railing on or whatever, because I know it's really easy to do, even if it's unintended sometimes, because again, monkey see, monkey do. I think a lot of communities, I think a lot of formulas and recipes that eventually do get created, I think a lot of that comes from what we have learned. I think a lot of what we, as far as the brain is concerned, what we establish is, of course, over the years, like 2 to 4 to 5, to 20, and sometimes even later in your 20s or whatever, how the brain is formed and what you learn. But, me being 47 years old, I learn all the time, and the brain for me changes all the time. I'm not much of a huge believer in change as it sits as far as, I guess, will and, perseverance are things that people kind of mention. I think those things are real, obviously, and there's evidence for them. However, I do think that they're oftentimes either misunderstood or few and far between. I do believe in change. I do believe in adaptation. However, I'm not necessarily so certain that it's directed as opposed to it's something that happens to you outside of any kind of observation or planning or anything like that. So I think a lot of what has come, not just, social media, but YouTube content, just in general, we are we're creatures of community to a degree. We are creatures of a pattern, observing pattern, seeing things done before us most of the time, and then acting accordingly. I mentioned that in terms of the contrast with as far as courage. I think some people kind of have labels for it, like alpha and all that kind of thing, or whatever. Regardless to the mechanics or the devices or the psychology that's involved, I try to at least be aware of it as much as I possibly can be. And so when I talk about community, and I talk about image, and I think really mostly this week talking about intentions and the contrast between ideas and reality, as I have for the last few weeks, that is the thing that, as far as ending off as far as yesterday with the community for this week specifically, where I meant to be at. Because I think a lot of communities are set up for various different reasons, have different meetings and direction, and good and bad, whatever that a person may view that as. But for the most part, I think the errors that happen are kind of baked in. I mean, when I talk about the recipe, when I talk about taking something that's a formula that works and then trying to replicate that in a kind of a cookie cutter way, and that not being the case. I think the things that are fluid, and I think the things that do change aren't necessarily individualistic or, even sometimes collective. It's the things that happen to us that sometimes aren't conscious. Most of the time, I don't think are conscious. And I think that's why when people say, history is always doomed to repeat itself if you're not aware of it, if you don't learn from it. And I think for me, that's a culmination of what that actually means, is that to be aware of something, and sometimes even to be aware of something. I've also mentioned this before, knowledge is power. I don't necessarily subscribe to that knowledge is power, because sometimes knowledge isn't something you can do anything with. Knowledge in and of itself can sometimes be a burden. And I think if you're a caregiver, if you're someone who's, gone through situations where, you know a whole bunch, but you know a whole bunch about a lot of things you can't do anything about. Not really, or at least you don't have the power to. And sometimes people say, well, why don't you do something in certain circumstances? Because believe it or not, sometimes people do. And sometimes you can make a bad situation worse. And so that's why I talk about courage. I'm not trying to be overly existential or deep or philosophical in this vlog here. My point is just simply when it comes to community and how that is created, despite sometimes intentions, which is, for me, I want to build a community that's about engagement. It's about people who share their passions for things like, for example, myself, I love 80s and 90s retro pop culture. I like to talk about things as far as that I think most people would kind of find boring, like living life just in general. Not necessarily having a specific goal to talk about the price at the grocery store and how much, certain items have gone up. I mean, that's fine to talk about, but I'm saying to you, as far as sharing our experiences, not being at some place where there's the expectation that you come here, that you learn, that you teach something, that, it's about building something to move on to a better plateau and all that kind of stuff. I mean, those things are great. I think if, it's a cancer community or something that has to do with, research or something like that, I think, or sometimes clubs that, go out into the communities and do volunteer work. I mean, there are all kinds of communities and they're all valid. Some of them are, political or social, entertainment. There's just all different kinds of ways of doing that. But being is that, like I said, I've been around for 47 years. I've had the experience since this whole thing, at least the internet, has been around. And I believe I've seen it go one way, another way, sideways in many cases. And what I seek to do as far as a community or building a community here is just like with the channel, building from the groundwork, the foundation, of course, the structure, and eventually the idea, which, like I said, it may take a very long time. I could build this channel, maybe build an audience or get some subscribers, but like I said, community's not necessarily assured. Like I said, audiences and people and groups, whether they individual or not, I see it as a wild tiger, as best I can explain it or describe it, which is, like I said, I don't think it's necessarily good or bad. I think there's lots of it that people perceive and project or anthropomorphize, like with animals, or, project onto sometimes AI and that kind of thing. I think, the idea, the concept of community can be one thing, and then the reality turns out to be the other, for a variety of different reasons. I think it has to do with chance a bit sometimes, where you are, picking your spot. But I think it also has to do with calculations and, odds and that kind of thing. And, so without getting into too much as far as being too overly complicated, and I think I have passed that mile marker a while back, maybe on this vlog. But my point is that creating a community for me here is mostly about, for one, the same thing that this channel is about, which is on authenticity, no makeup, not being someone you're supposed to be for other people, not bringing in things that are supposed to be for other places, like, which one is better, PC or Mac, or what is your favorite sports team? You want to talk about whatever you want to talk about. You want to engage however you want to engage. Like I said, I'm not trying to set up a rule or guideline specifically about that to a degree. There are some things that, I do and don't want, as far as, don't want drama, don't want politics, don't want things that are generally better kept in other places where people are probably, sometimes trying to get away from that. Here, I'd rather it be something that people can enjoy, have fun with, share their, like I said, passions, whether it be about something specifics, like I said, more like I said, what I like, 80s and 90s pop culture, even current pop culture, or just living life itself, giving a perspective, not about emotional dumping and all that kind of stuff, not about coaching, not about selling people things and telling people what to do and, giving advice. None of those types of expectations. A community that, as I've mentioned earlier this week, it's, you follow me and I'll follow you. Well, no, I don't want that either, because if you're going to follow this, even as unlikely or as however that might be, it should be because you want to do it. Just like building a community, I want it to be because you put something, a part of yourself, into it. I think probably one of the most genius things that YouTube ever did was put the you in tube, right? You. It's something that you make, good or bad, wrong or right. Obviously I don't want bad, but I'm saying to you that I'm looking for building the good, making this a place where it's not something that happens everywhere else, that people can, they can talk about their day, talk about knitting. They can talk about their coin collection. They can talk about their favorite movie or TV show. They can talk about the fact they went to the grocery store and, they like the new paint scheme of their favorite, whatever it is, your shoe collection and why you collect shoes and where that started, comic books. Like I said, sharing that and giving feedback, talking about experiences that, may, be in common with others who also, talk about the things that they're passionate about, and building it from here, meaning just doing videos. I mean, I know that there's Discord and things like that, and those are great places too. But I think the thing that YouTube has that's really great is that, and keep in mind, I'm not showing my face right now. I'm not afraid to. I definitely will. And honestly, I think if the community is engaged and builds more, I would definitely do more video content if that's something that I find people like to engage in or whatever. Vlog 100, it has my video, it has my voice, shows you who I am. Good and bad, no makeup. I just simply happen to enjoy doing voice. But whatever you like to do, maybe you like to do that too. This is a place where you can kind of engage, like I said, with no expectations, just being you, no makeup, no, being told what to think, what to do, or expecting me to say, hey, I could use a little bit of money, drop you the Cash App or something like that. No, like I said, the participation, being part of this, it hopefully is organic, just as anything that you may like, or maybe you don't. Maybe you only watch a couple of videos or a couple of video voice over vlogs or some content that I do. That's okay. Like I said, I'm not here to, stroke my ego. I'm here because, one, for myself, I like doing what I'm doing, and this is something that's therapeutic or cathartic or however you want to word that. And also, I guess it's a little bit of ego. Yeah, like I said, because I do believe, hey, maybe this could be a place that I honestly don't find in a lot of other places that sometimes get so convoluted, get so about, expressing some kind of goal or belief or something like that. And it's just like, I just want to have fun. I just want to have maybe a few hours, maybe a few minutes, maybe a little bit of time, a space where I can do what I want to do and not necessarily be expected to go somewhere or do something or be engaged in a way that, is about an expectation where I or anyone else has to be something that we're not. You can be truthful, you can be honest, but I think there are certain ways that you can go about doing that. And I don't mean that in a nasty, in a mean or vicious way. I'm talking about doing that in a way that makes sense. So that when you're listening to this and you're saying, oh, that's something I like. And then, of course, like I said, if those engage with me or, want a feature or want me to put content of theirs on mine as I build, or, they want to feature or sponsor anything that I'm doing, I mean, that's cool, but it's not based on if you feature me, I'll feature you. And I certainly don't want it to be one of those things where something is promoted with some kind of expectation of now, like, this is XYZ. Now go subscribe to XYZ and follow when I don't really know anything about XYZ. I can't make any promises or guarantees about XYZ. Not that that's necessarily important. Like I said, I'm not concerned about expectations. The point is that, it should be genuine. It should be organic, and there shouldn't be expectations. If you like what you like, great. You want to communicate what you want to communicate with whoever and however you want to communicate with, obviously, the guidelines of YouTube, you can do that. And so, yeah, that's the community that I'm looking for. And as far as, stemming beyond that, I mean, of course, building and whatever, as far as it's practical and it suits whatever this actually is, as opposed to what I'm as being totally forced and manipulated and controlled and used for some kind of purpose other than what it's honestly about, which is, like I said, building a community of people who share their vast interest and who don't want to be overproduced, or care more about production rather than just content, whether it's something they consume or something that they're creating. And so that's what I mean about community. And I think I could be wrong. Like I said, I'm not saying that I'm right about everything or, I have the only way of doing things, but I think that can be exceptional. I think that can be a wonderful way to not only build a community, but see what happens. And maybe others might find a little bit of joy in things other than worrying about Sony PlayStation or Xbox or this or that, or, drama or conflict, or, this is the right way and that's the wrong way type of stuff. It's just, like I said, or, buy my book. Let me tell you what's wrong with the world and, do all my emotional dumping. It's like, those are all, like I said, those are all, not all things for all people, and there's a place for everything, and everything has a place. And like I said, I'm not saying that in some ultra elitist or, some kind of special or pompous or arrogant cliche or whatever. It's just, when I talk about community and I talk about motivations for doing content, like I said, all of this mostly, this is me expressing myself, and, not about directing it towards or attacking or being super critical of others. I get back to that because I make sure that I don't get too far away from it, because I like to have that presence of mind, know what I'm doing, when I'm doing it in the moment, where, and like I said, not trying to put it on. This isn't a show, me not being a character or anything like that. And a part of building that community, I like to encourage that same thing. Maybe you don't have the greatest equipment. Maybe you don't know exactly what it is you have to want to say. Maybe you don't have the looks like my face for radio, or even worse. That's okay. Like I said, I if there's anything I could say that, on a personal level, I'd like to encourage people to be more vocal in a real and an authentic way, not anonymous or, with the expectations that they have to be something or put something on, or, think about, hey, what if I blow up or become famous or an influencer or whatever. I mean, those are all, can be legitimate and honest and genuine places to be. Excuse me. But that's, like I said, I'd like to go beyond that. I like to have this be a place that, you can, from, I don't care if it's from collecting coins to, I'll give you an example. I love old 80s and 90s TV and radio bumpers and things like that. I love that kind of stuff. It's probably weird. I love jingles from the 80s and 90s. I don't know why. It's probably because that's how I was raised, and that's, I guess, to my bone, what my influence growing up kind of directed me towards, as far as my love, my interest, my passion, and what play seems like to me. There's lots of things I haven't done, but boy, if I could imagine, doing something like producing commercials and jingles like way back when I grew up, those are the types of things I find fun. And I love hearing about people's experiences, people that, maybe used to be an executive producer, used to, produce or do production for TV shows or radio, or used to, have their own convenience store or whatever. That's what I'm talking about, engaging and just being oneself, and, just talking about, things that they like, or, they have a passion for, just life itself. So hopefully, if you're listening to this, my probably, pick and choose. Maybe I've been doing some incessant rambling. I apologize. Only for the fact that, I realize part of what I'm doing here is engaging and asking people to listen in that regard. But, I am who I am, and hopefully you take it, you leave it, warts and all, good and bad. And if you like what you're hearing, maybe you subscribe, maybe you do more than just rate and comment, but maybe you actually engage. And not because I want your Cash App or I want you to take my Cash App or any of that stuff, just because, let's play. Would you like to come out and play? Would you like to be a part of the, a community? Would you like to have some fun? Do the things that really just are separate and away from everything else that's going on, and have that be okay. So anyways, that's going to do it for this Friday vlog, and talking about community, but hopefully that makes sense. And if you're listening to this, I'll see you next week or beyond next week. So until then, take care.